How do I deepen my knowledge of herbs so that I can confidently use them more often? And why does that matter? That's one version of this question. I'm looking for clarity, guidance, and a way to deepen my understanding of Chinese medicine. I know in my bones the depth to which it can offer healing, but feel limited in my comprehension. I question when I've not yet had enough experience with teachers that I can learn from, or if I'll never be able to fully grasp the depth of the medicine, which I hope to. I want to offer my patients the best care and continue to learn. And then the third version of this question is, I've always been curious about online practice development because of the lifestyle freedom and the potential access to clients that could benefit greatly from that kind of support. I have a teaching background, but have not yet felt authentic teaching while talking to a camera. I didn't study herbs in acupuncture school. I only have a master's in acupuncture, but my state doesn't require me to have a special training to suggest herbs. Okay, so this is questions about, like, there's a spectrum here. If I don't know herbs, right? How can I work online if I don't do herbs at all? There's one piece of this. And then I know some herbs and I want to go deeper with this, right? And I'm putting these all together because they're very related, and I see this on a spectrum. So the first thing I'll say about this, I'm just going to hit this one real quick, and I know I've spoken about this in other videos. I have a teaching background, but have not yet felt authentic teaching while talking to a camera. Yeah, nobody does at first, right? Talking to a camera is a skill. You have to develop it. It takes practice. My first times on camera were fucking dog shit, right? One day maybe I'll dig up that old footage, but I mean, it's grueling. I mean, it's like looking at a junior high yearbook photo, right? I mean, like, it's bad. You get better with practice. So I have some tips and tricks on that. One of them that I'll tell you right now is to just do it. Don't wait for the perfect time. Like, I'm filming this stuff. My idea when I'm filming is I'm not making a perfect video production. This isn't like a Christopher Nolan movie or something like that where every single thing has got to be exactly perfect and I control all the pixels, right? It's not that. My idea with the video is that you're not here with me right now, but if you were, this is what we'd be doing, right? So when the wind blows, a car drives by, whatever, it doesn't matter. I can't control it if you were here sitting with me. So you have to set yourself up where you can make videos that are more candid and more open, where you can let your personality out. And it's about creating connection, intimacy, not creating like the perfect video. So the next thing I'll say about that is that, I know I've talked about this before, but one of the really helpful things is when you're filming a video, think of the person that you wish you were telling this stuff to, right? Imagine the person you're talking to. So if you have a patient who this is relevant for, whatever you're filming, right? Like maybe you've got somebody who's, I don't know, they're having trouble sleeping. And so you want to tell them things like sleep hygiene stuff, like, okay, make sure you don't bring your phone in the bedroom, and turn the lights down and light a candle and this kind of stuff, right? You give them those lifestyle tips. You don't have to say their name in the video, but it's like you're talking to them. That video is for them, right? That's the person in your mind. That's the unique person that you're talking to, that you have a connection with. Think of your favorite patients. Right? Think of the people you love talking to, you love teaching stuff to. The people who are going to appreciate that you're taking the time to explain this. They're going to implement it. They're going to act. They're going to use it, right? These are get to work kind of people. So you put that person in your mind. That's who you're talking to. That's who you make the video for. However, at the same time, just know there are millions, probably billions of people that have the same problem and need the same advice, right? How many people have trouble sleeping? I don't know. I should look it up, right? It's got to be billions with a B. It's got to be. Right? So I'm talking to one, I'm talking to many, but you can make it feel personal and connected by just shifting your mindset. So if you're not comfortable teaching in front of a camera, it's probably because like the frame on the mind is like, it's very formal and very official, especially if you have a background in teaching. It's like there's a lot of structure there, which I respect that, right? But at the same time, don't forget what it is you're trying to do is connect with people, and you're trying to empower them. And this camera is just a vehicle, it's just a tool, right? If you were here next to me, we wouldn't need it. I would just tell you, right? That's kind of the idea, you know? But I'd rather not tell every person once and have to say it a million times. I'd rather just say it once and have it heard. So this is a skill, right? I'm still growing on video. I'm not perfect at it, but that's exactly my point. You don't have to be perfect at it. You just get out there and get started, and you get better over time. You just do. You get used to it. So there's that. Okay, now for herbs. So if you don't do herbs, right? Oh, I do Chinese medicine. I want to work online, or I do, whatever it is. Like, chiropractors adjust spines, right? That's their official kind of differentiator. A lot of chiropractors work online, but they don't adjust spines online. right? They sell supplements and they have info products and these kinds of things, right? They have courses and challenges and all this stuff that transfers digitally. Same thing for acupuncture. You don't have to be throwing needles at people through the internet, right? It's not going to happen. Yeah, it doesn't work. But we can look at everything else of Chinese medicine. It's not just acupuncture. There's herbs, right? But if you don't do herbs, guess what? Qigong, breath work, nutrition is huge, humongous, right? These kinds of things. Also, feng shui, how they're setting up their environment, is very important. Very important. Like with Modern Vitality, I didn't set out to make a feng shui course, but I wound up having to make feng shui updates because the environmental management was affecting people's illnesses and their symptoms. So we had to look at that, right? I had to dive into that. There's a lot of stuff. What I'll tell you right now is that it's very easy to get stuck in our own little frame, our own little worldview. But when you look out there, there are so many people killing it online in the health space that have barely any education. Barely any. You are so overqualified with what you know already. There are people, health coaches, influencers, podcast hosts, wellness gurus, whatever it is. They find something useful. They don't wait to be credentialed, right? They just get to work. They find something useful that helps the people. They start talking about it. There are all kinds of different business models. You might have a podcast and you're always talking about health stuff, and then you have affiliate links to equipment, right? Like somebody wants to get a device to decrease EMFs in their house, or an air filtration system, or water filtration, or whatever it is. And you just have your links on your page, and the people listening to your podcast go through and they buy the products that they want, and you get a commission from that, right? Some people do very, very well with that model. They don't know jack shit about Chinese medicine. They're nowhere near a doctor, right? But they're helping a ton of people. They're living on their own terms. They're working online. Let's not get stuck with the model we inherited from school and going, oh, I need to put needles in people, and then that's it. And then you can start there and kind of start expanding your mind, but also look at what other people are doing that have no qualifications whatsoever, right? And they've got incredible freedom to operate. They're not worried about state boards taking away their licenses and all this kind of stuff, right? We can be very creative here in terms of what we offer. If you already have a background in something else, right, like homeopathy, that's amazing. That would translate so well to an online program, because now you can take all the stuff, right, where you're going to create whatever kinds of forms and information you need to get from people, so so with homeopathy, you're still going to need to make an algorithm, right, of how you arrive at your treatment that you would use for people, right? And then you create forms and surveys and whatever it is, so you can get that information, help them figure out which ones are for them. You got a little e-com shop. They order the remedies that they need. You guide them through it. I would put people in a group setting, right, and be kind of focused on like one type of problem if you could, so you can attract people that are all kind of dealing with the same thing, so they can bond over that. There's so much stuff you can do. So much stuff you can do. There's a lot of people with barely any education, barely any training, and they're helping a ton of folks. So let's not get limited by that, okay? The next thing I'll say is that Eastern medicine, Chinese herbs, it is an incredibly rich and rewarding field of study, an area of study, right? There's so much to it, and it's very easy to be overwhelmed, because the books, these are like 900-page books of herbs and formulas and this kind of thing. There's a lot to know, right, if you're going to know everything. I'm going to tell you two things about that, okay? One is that it's very hard to have a memory bank and just be like the know-it-all of Chinese herbs. It's very, very hard, which is why I'm in the process of creating a tool that will do that for you, right, that will back you up so you don't have blind spots and things falling through the cracks. It's under construction currently. As I'm recording this, what is this, July something, 2023, and I don't know that I'm not good with days because I have a clean calendar. I barely ever know what day it is, but I know what month it is, and we're in July, and I've got this thing in process. I've got a patent application pending on it. Like, I'm not messing around. This is a huge invention. It's going to change the entire landscape of Eastern medicine. I'm very confident about that. But what it does is it will allow you to basically have superpowers in terms of knowing things with herbs, right? And you have an insane reference base, right? That's one piece. So don't worry. I've got a safety net coming where you will not forget things. Number two is that we don't actually need all those things. You don't. It's good to have them, right? But ultimately, when it comes down to learning herbs, you can take an 80-20 approach, right? And you can start to learn the most important things about herbal medicine. And then from there, you can start to branch and become more specific. And what I mean by that is we can actually look at first principles. I'm big on first principles of herbal medicine, right? So I've been up late a lot lately, and it's been getting pretty wild with the things I've had to just get paper out and start scrawling because I've got to get it out fast, right? Not even using software to make some of these ideas and concepts. And I'll make it pretty or I'll clean it up, right? There's a lot of stuff coming in terms of clinical clarity and what we can be doing here. And that's going to go with the Clinical Clarity 2.0 tool I'm developing. But a lot of this is how you think about it. Taking things to first principles has to do with nature, right? Understanding the nature of the pattern that the person has in front of you. And I'm not going to do all this in this video, but basically like hot, cold, dry, damp, exterior, interior, right? These kinds of things. What burner is it in? These are first principles. Okay? You can't really reduce this stuff much more. You get these building blocks, you got your primary Legos. And then if you look and go, okay, what are the treatment therapeutics we have? What are the first principles there? So you start to learn, like basically if somebody's very damp, you start to look at, okay, I just want to take modular thinking. I want to look at herbal formula categories, single herb categories that handle dampness. Start there. Very, very broad strokes. And there will be some categorical formulas that are pretty universal where you don't even have to be very diagnostically good and specific and precise to just move a big chunk for somebody and go, okay, well, we're going to start taking out some of the damp, right? That kind of thing. This is all in Clinical Clarity, like how to think about this stuff, how to organize it, how to structure it. We talk about it at our summits as well. There's an order of operations, right? So when you see mixed patterns with people and you go, okay, well, yeah, they have blood stasis and they're chi deficient and they're very cold and they also have dampness and they also have chi stagnation, right? Where do you start, right? Well, you start with the most exterior excess condition and you work your way through. I mean, that's how you do it. So you start to learn how to think bigger. These are things that I'm not going to tear into all this on this. This is a damn good question, like an FAQ video, right? I'm not going to do a whole lecture on this stuff. I have it. I've already recorded it. It already exists. So you can dive into the program there. There's also, there's other people in Eastern medicine teaching this like clinical simplicity kind of thing, right? It's becoming a more widespread phenomenon, which is good. It's good to start thinking simple. The only trouble is you don't want to stay simple, right? You start with simple. That's like phase one of learning things, how to be functional, how to use herbs. And then from there, you start to go, okay, well, even with the simplicity, there's a lot of people still kind of falling through the cracks. So how do I refine that, right? And eventually we're going to come back to having everything underneath where you don't lose anything. And now you can navigate a whole web of information in a non-linear way, right? Which I know you probably don't understand what I'm saying, but it's coming. It'll make sense once you start to see these tools in action. It's going to be pretty cool. So if you're looking at Eastern medicine, how do I get a deeper understanding of herbs? It's limitless, right? But that doesn't mean you expand out in all directions and just like peter out. You expand in the way that's aligned to the people you're helping. So if you have, for example, if your niche is office workers, right? 50-year-olds, sedentary, like they do a lot of sitting at the desk in America. They're not eating the best food. They're not sleeping very well, right? They're waking up way too early to go to work, all this kind of stuff. But you're trying to help these people that are in this situation. You may notice a lot of dampness, right? A lot of big swollen tongues, a lot of thick tongue coats. And you can start to go, okay, well, out of all the herbs, right, I can start to ignore like things that are more moistening, like yin tonics, right? We probably don't need those for this patient population, for most of them, right? I don't want to move a lot of blood because if there's dampness, you don't want to do blood invigorating because you're just going to move the dampness around inside, right? You need to clear that out first, work on that. So you can start to segment, take the 900,000 page book, and you can go, okay, well, actually, I only need to be looking at like 20 pages of this book. The more relevant formulas, the more relevant herbs for this type of person, right? And you follow your people. If you're working on female triathletes with infertility, right? It's like, well, they're at, 4% body fat, and that's why they're not having periods anymore. You don't need to be clearing damp on these people, right? This is where now all of a sudden those yin tonics and things like that might actually be a good idea. Maybe it's time to start looking at that section of the book. So you can take this massive knowledge base of Eastern medicine, which is overwhelming and daunting and intimidating, and instead you start to refine it down. And you go, okay, well, for my people, right, I'm going to use my people as the lens to look through and go, for the people I help, these patterns over here are the most applicable. And now you've gotten rid of like 80% of the stuff. And you can just start looking there. Now, of course, when you have context, if you've done a full lap around all of Eastern medicine, herbs, everything like that, then you have more context, right? So you know that you can safely turn off different things. But also, if you don't have that context, right? Like we have people in our group that haven't studied Chinese herbs fully, right? They didn't go through it in university. Like it's fine. They're kind of piecing their way through it. That's why we have a group, right? You've got all different levels of people that are seasoned with herbalism. I'm in there, right? Like you can ask questions and you'll get feedback from different folks with different perspectives. And there's not usually one right answer, right? But you start to learn methodologies and how to think about this stuff and have a group of colleagues with camaraderie that kind of have your back so that you're not making like rookie mistakes, right? Because we don't know what we don't know. So you want to do, a full lap around the material if you can. Again, the tool I'm making is going to massively bolster that. But even without that, just refining, take the people you're helping and let them guide you, right? That will guide your study and you can dive very deep, right? Like, I had a full education on Eastern medicine, very strong background in that. And I still, like a year ago, 2 years ago, was finding formulas in a book that I'd read and forgotten, over a decade ago. But all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, this is for this mold patient. This is the one. This is the formula for them. It's obscure. I've never used it clinically. Nobody talks about it, right? But for this person, how they're presenting, this is the one, right? But you only find that stuff because you're doing modular thinking and then you're kind of zooming in on what the people need. And then you're following those patterns and then you can get this minute detail in that area, right? Eventually over a long enough career, maybe this minute detail in this area and this one, they start to kind of touch, right? And they start to connect. That can happen, right? Like I said, I'm building a tool where all that mycelium is already down and connected and you can navigate that as you need to without losing anything, which is going to be fantastic. But for now, just think top level, start segmenting and go, okay, I need to learn about damp or chi stagnation or whatever. Stick with those categories and then just run cases, right? That's why we have a group. Put a case study in there. Here's what I got going on. Here's the person's tongue. Send a picture, right? If you're working online, you got tongue pictures. I do, pop it in the group. All right, team, what's going on here with this person? I'm happy to take a look at that. I'm happy to run it through my tool, right? And I'll give you a report of what came out of there. No problem, right? And you're going to get all different eyes on your case. So you can use this environment as a container to learn and grow, and we will become what you need. And that's okay. That's why we're here. This is how I run this. It's a dynamic, responsive ecosystem, right? So all different types of practitioners have been through our group, right? We've had MDs, we've had naturopaths, functional medicine. Like there's all different kinds of folks that come in. Not everybody knows Chinese herbs, but that shouldn't stop you from going online because there's people who don't know jack shit about Chinese herbs or even any kind of medical anything, right? But what they're doing is tapping into the people that need help and finding solutions, and we can absolutely do that while you're fleshing out your clinical clarity and your deeper understanding. Absolutely. All right, get to work.